So with that, question number one, we're just going to start at the beginning, and we've got a healthy mix of questions for the both of you, Snake and David. Good mix in the chat of creationists, evolutionists. David, one of your number one fans here, creationist Crybaby's got the first question for you. So here we go. Let's have some fun. David, if you never read the Bible and just spent your life determining how old the world was, wouldn't you come up with a number in the billions using multiple dating methods?
Crybaby, you better get ready to cry, because I'm going to point out where you're wrong there. When I was an undergraduate student, I was privileged to work with Bob Gentry at Oak Ridge National Labs regarding his work on polonium halos. If I had come to that as a young geologist with no Bible knowledge, if I'd grown up the way that my father and my grandfather wanted me to, neither my father nor my grandfather McQueen were interested in the Bible. They were critics of the Bible. They would have never wanted me to even study the Bible. But if I had followed their path, and then as a young student had worked as a lab assistant for Robert Gentry, and helped him polish down halos found in fluorite and biotite, and helped him to edit as best I could as a young scientist. In 1973, I helped him edit a paper called Ion Microprobe Conformation of Lead Isotope Ratios and the Search for Isomer Precursors in Polonium Radiohalos. I mean, this is nuclear physics being done at Oak Ridge National Labs, one of the premier laboratories around. If all I had known was Gentry's work, then I would be forced to question a billion-year-old Earth.
David, thank you for the response. Taylor, floor is yours. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Excuse me. Yeah, that was kind of my last point. It does seem like if not for the Bible, we wouldn't be coming up with young Earth arguments. You may be an outlier, Gentry, maybe too, but the majority of people are actually concluding opposite. So it seems like, and again, this is not an argument from popularity, it's an argument from why is the evidence such that it's so unclear that, assuming you're right, that all of these people are making a mistake and they're highly educated. And the fact is that not even a few hundred years ago, it was all young Earth creationism, and the evidence actually swayed people away from that. So it was all of these discoveries by young Earth creationists who are saying, look, this is not consistent with a young Earth. And so even though they had that Bible assumption, they still couldn't hold on to that. So the evidence, assuming you're correct about the conclusions, the evidence is not set up by the creator in a way that is easily understood by all of the best educated people on the planet. So it seems like the people who are holding out just because of the Bible, most of them.
May I respond to that, Donnie?
Yes. So whoever the question is for, we're going to make sure gets the last word. So David, question was for you. You get the last response.
The reason that Taylor's wrong on this is what I've gone up here. He's questioned the usefulness of a young Earth model. Now, most people in the 21st century value the usefulness of some job, medicine, engineering, because of the amount of money they can make in applying that profession. So my argument is that Taylor and Conspiracy Cat, a number of people I've debated, underestimate the number of young Earth creationists that are actually working at national labs, government facilities, whether it be the NASA or whatever. Why? Because these 30-year-old young Earth creationists, when they go into work, they know that they're going to lose their job. They know that they're not going to have enough money if they go around talking about creationism to buy a new car or to put their children through college. The second argument, and we can return to this later on, is that my own research on porphyrins in the chemistry of crude oil gives a number of predictive things, leads to predictions that might allow us to find additional crude oil. If we want to return to that, we can do that. Back to you, Donnie.
David, appreciate that. We got one of our biggest fans here in the chat, Creationist Crybaby. And so I think in a few minutes from now, it's going to be Evolutionist Crybaby, Professor McQueen, because you're about to dismantle this argument.
Well, I recognize Crybaby from the past. Go ahead and read that for me and let me see what he says.
So CC says, blue schist, as you've talked about in your presentation, forms by the metamorphism of basalt at high pressures and low temperatures. Explain how blue schist, am I saying that right, David?
Yeah, blue schist, exactly.
Blue schist would form and get exposed at the surface through tectonics.
And what Crybaby says there is certainly what you would read in a Geology 101 textbook, that blue schist forms by the metamorphism at plate boundaries of basalt at high pressures and low temperatures. Now, let me go back to my chart here, because I'm afraid that I may not have explained this as clearly as I wanted to. Now, this phase diagram here is showing on this side an increase in temperature from 200 to 800 degrees. And then as you go down this side, let's go over here, you're going from the surface down to 12 kilobars. And so the blue schist facies forms, just as he says there, at a very high pressure but a low temperature. Now, he asked how that would be formed and exposed at the surface through tectonics. Well, in the tectonic events of the worldwide flood, this assemblage, this blue schist facies, including the characteristic mineral, I want you to be able to look up the mineral kyanite, because that's what gives the blue schist its predominant color. The creationist argument to what he says is the metamorphic petrologists that have taught me over the last 40 years are the ones that need to be crying, because the presence of blue schist facies rocks on the surface near California, near San Francisco, I've seen them with my own eyes. The fact that they're sitting there is a remarkable disequilibrium situation. The disequilibrium in the different, there, Ms. McQueen's come join us. Maybe she'll make a cake. At any rate, the disequilibrium situation that I've explained has an explanation in a young Earth model, because we are arguing that it was just several thousand years ago that these assemblages, the blue schist facies assemblage, was brought up to the surface in modern day California. The evolutionary argument is weak because they have to say, like this rescue device here that Pattison brings up, they have to say, oh, McQueen, this is a kinetic issue. It's reaction overstepping. Well, I think that is simply an evolutionary rescue device because this kyanite evidence is a clear evidence of a young Earth. Donnie?